and welcome to the ROCKATX online worship experience. You're getting ready to experience God on another level. Whatever you're seeking from God for your life is available for you as you praise, hear the word, and transform your situation. While you're worshiping with us, feel free to interact with our online ministers in the chat and share this broadcast with your friends and family so they can join you online. Also, make sure you subscribe and follow the ROCKATX on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram to stay connected to all the Rock is doing. Now, shake off the worries of the week and get ready to give God some praise. Service will begin soon.
Which means, God, there's a special place that's going to be made for you called the lake of fire. And listen, and in the last days, when we see you, those who gaze on you, they will see you and consider you saying, this is the person who made earth tremble, who shook the kingdoms. That means when you see the devil, you're not going to see Freddy Krueger. You're not going to see Michael Myers. You're not going to see Dracula, Frankenstein, the werewolf, the boogeyman. You're going to say, this is it? That means Satan has Napoleon syndrome. Satan's a little man who acting big. Am I making sense? Stop letting the little man run your life. Because he says, when you look at him, you're going to say, this started all the trouble. This right here. So now, this is that first jurisdictional battle. In other words, now, in heaven, Satan decided, I want to be the boss. He did not, so he tried to take territorial jurisdiction. He tried to take geographic jurisdiction. He tried to take subject. He said, I want it all. And God said, I wish you would. Am I making sense? So now that means this. So now when Satan fell, go to my next slide. What happened? He's kicked down to earth. Remember, he's kicked down to earth, but on earth, when God created earth, he gave Adam jurisdiction. And so now, and he says, now Adam, the day of you eat of the tree of knowledge of good and evil, Genesis 2:17, you shall surely die. That word there literally talks about a physical death and a spiritual death. When he ate of the tree, or when he ate of the fruit, he did not immediately die a physical death. But what did happen was he was separated from the tree of life, so physically he began to die. He did not immediately die, but now, when he was separated from the tree of life, to the tree of life, he literally began to physically deteriorate. Am I making sense? Making sense. And so now, spiritual death occurred. Why? Psalm 51:5. I was brought forth in iniquity. And in sin, my mother conceived me. So because Adam then bit of the tree, he gave over the jurisdiction on earth to whom? Satan. Now, who had it first? Adam. And then when Adam ate of the tree, he decided not to let God be his boss anymore. And now Satan was his boss. Am I making sense? Making sense. Adam was never without a boss. Somebody is always ruling you. Always. Don't let this mood taste fool you. You are always under somebody's jurisdiction. How do you know it? Make a lot of money and don't pay taxes. You will find out that you are not you are not you don't live on your own island. Am I making sense? Listen, pay for your house, pay it off, and then don't pay the property taxes. You're going to find out that you're never, ever, ever, ever in life and eternity running your own self. I want to be my own man. You're never going to be your own man. Am I making sense? Don't even let the enemy get in your mind. I want to be my own boss. You're never your own boss. Why? Because if you run that business into the ground, everybody you owe is going to be your boss. Listen, entrepreneurs have a boss. Rich people have a boss. Am I making sense? Break the laws, and I don't care where you are in the world, they're going to find you. Because you're never at a point in which you are not under someone's jurisdiction. Am I making sense? So we don't talk about jurisdiction, but the reality is you're always in somebody's jurisdiction. Even when you think I'm well-read, I got my own mind. Well, when you read that information, it was written by somebody. And now your mind is operating under their jurisdiction. You are never jurisdictionless. Am I making sense? Woman of God, as a single woman, you're still supposed to be under somebody's jurisdiction. Man of God, as a single man, you're supposed to be under somebody's jurisdiction. Am I making sense? Submit to your husband, the woman of God, as unto. That means he needs to be under God's jurisdiction, and you need to be under his jurisdiction. Period. Am I making sense? You are not jurisdictionless ever in life. So now, Psalm 51:5, behold, I was brought forth in iniquity. So I'm born, but why am I born to sin? Because Adam, right? Romans 5:12. Therefore, just as through one man sin, Romans 5:12, sin entered the world. Because of Adam's failure, because of Adam's fault, and because of Adam's fall, then we were all born where? In the sin. It says this, just as through one man, sin entered the world. So when Adam fell, who fell? All of us. So when Adam lost his jurisdictional right, who lost their jurisdictional right? You did. Am I making sense? And when I'm born under the jurisdictional rule of the devil. Doesn't matter how cute your baby is, they are born under the jurisdictional rule. Your grandbaby is born under the jurisdictional rule. Am I making sense? I take all the pictures you want. I promise you they are born under the jurisdictional rule of the enemy. Am I making sense? Your little cutie Rudy is under the jurisdictional rule of the enemy. Am I making sense? And your greatest call as a parent and grandparent is to change their jurisdictional rule. Not to make them a lawyer, not to make them a doctor, not to make them the president. Your greatest call is not to make them the ballerina, and not to make them Mozart, and not to make them Picasso. Your greatest call is to change their jurisdictional rule. If you don't do anything else in life, your kingdom call is to ensure that baby, that grandbaby, is no longer under the jurisdictional rule of the devil. When you die, you want to be able to look and say, God, the one thing that I did was I made sure that my child, and I made sure that my grandchildren, and anybody that I know, and anybody that I spend time with, and anybody that I talk to, I tried to get them under the jurisdictional rule of you. Am I making sense? Making sense? And so take them to all the events you want. Expose them to all the stuff you want. But if they know how to paint and play the piano, and they're still under the jurisdictional rule of Satan, you failed. And you have to realize that. My daughters are this, my granddaughters are this, my grandson is this, my son is this, And whose jurisdictional rule are they under? You still got work to do. Am I making sense? So just as through one man sin entered the world, and death through sin, thus death spread to all men. So here's the reality. You're not born good. So we have to understand that. You're not born good. You're not, I used to be pretty good. No. When you were born, you were born. Listen, I understand it because it's hard for us to, we hear it, but it's like somewhere in our mind we believe just because they look like you. But you remember, they're born under the jurisdictional rule of the enemy. Am I making sense? Now, and then it says this, Ephesians 2:1. And you he made alive, who were dead in trespasses. So that means I was born dead. I was born dead. I was born the walking dead. I was born the living dead. And I grew up the living dead. And it wasn't until God, it says this, and you he made alive. This means this, that the energy, the impetus, the work, God did it. He's just like he quickened the body of Christ in the grave, he had to quicken you. You did not find him. And you did not come. Wow, I'm so glad. Jesus was not lost. You were the one who was lost. You did not come, grow up and say, man, I just had to finally put myself together. No, you did not. Stop saying that lie. You he made alive. That means he got you with your raggedy self, with your terrible thinking, and he got you in the raggedy state. You weren't making your way to church. You wasn't trying to get better. You didn't. I decided to turn my life around. Stop lying to yourself. You didn't decide to turn your life around. Literally, he had to make you alive. Am I making sense? You he made alive. He didn't say we work together on this. You he made alive. And you have to understand. So whenever you think about how frustrated you are with kingdom life and God and your situation, understand this. You he made alive. That you wouldn't have any life had he not instigated it. It all came from him. I was talking to Pastor Wilcox, Pastor Anthony Wilcox, just the other day. And we were talking, and he said, Moo, the older I get, he said, there is one truth that resounds in my spirit. I said, what is it, Pastor Wilcox? The older I get, there is one truth that resounds in my spirit. I said, that's good. What is it, Pastor Wilcox? The older I get. There's one move, one truth. And I said, what? He said, he did it all. He said, that's shouting music right there, Moody. He did it all. he said, when you understand that, he said, ain't nothing wrong with today. He did it all. You he made alive, who were dead. I'm making sense. So that means that when we think about this idea of jurisdiction, remember, you were under the jurisdictional rule of the devil, and he had to do all the work. You didn't do any of it. He had to do all the work to get you out of that jurisdiction. Go to my next slide. Let me show you this. So, Dr. Moody, what does it look like? You he made alive. I put it in bold so you understand that, right? So how was I before he made me alive? I was dead. What does dead mean, Dr. Moody? Nekros in the Greek. It means you were a lifeless corpse. It says it means you were spiritually dead. Listen, you were destitute of a life that recognizes and is devoted to God. There was nothing in you that was devoted to God or recognized him. So somebody's just saying in their mind, no, well, I used to go to church. And I grew up in the church. No, it does not say that you weren't religious, but you were destitute of the recognition of who God really was. So for you, God was a convenient option. And he was a necessary means to get your stuff. Which means he says, that ain't who I was. I'm so much bigger than that. For you, he was an option to get you out of trouble. For you, he was an option to pay a bill or two. He was a necessary option to get you out of some legal trouble, help you out of an addiction or two. And he says, I'm not a camp counselor. I'm not just a lawyer and a police officer. I'm not just a helper. I'm not a lifeguard. I'm not a life vest. I'm not a life raft. And your problem is you couldn't recognize me. You only saw me as how I could help you. You never saw me as really being who I was. And you couldn't see me for being the one who did it all, and the one who started it all, and the one who keeps it all. He said you couldn't recognize me as that. And so it says this, that dead means, listen, that I was given over to trespasses, or listen, inactive as respects to doing right. That my right button was broken. No matter how many times I pushed it. Do right, do right, do right, do right, do right. How many times you told yourself, I gotta get myself together. And he was like, no, because you can't do it. Am I making sense? It says you were dead. So that means that there was nothing you could do. You did not have the power. You were inoperative. If we put right in front of you, tied you to right, you couldn't do it. See, no, but here's why it's tough. It's tough for us because in our brains, we want to take some right and like we had an active role in our salvation. But it says, and you, he made alive. That means if God didn't make you alive, there was no way for you to be alive. You needed something on the outside, because what was on the inside of you did not have any active power to be right. Am I making sense? So now, it says this. We were dead in our trespasses and sins, and we once walked. That word walk there is perpeteo, which means that you progressed or you made due use of opportunities. So that means every opportunity you had, you're gonna walk how? According to the course of this world. So you couldn't get right because all you're gonna do is act like the age you were in. I'll say it again. You couldn't get right because all you're going to do is act like the age you were in. So if the age was selfish, if the age taught you self-preservation, the age taught you look out for yourself, the age taught you, if the world taught you this, all you could do was do that. So you act like your mama now. And you act like Adam. Am I making sense? And you could not un-Adam you because Adam was in you. So listen, it says this, that he had to make you alive because you were dead. You walked according to the course of this world. Everything about you, what does that look like? According to the prince of the power of the air. So now, as kingdom people, I want you to understand this. This helps you to pull you together and also to help you to see other people. What do you mean? Unsaved people can't get right. So stop talking about, I can't believe what they did. Unsaved people acting like unsaved people. Lord, Jesus. Oh, God, this is such an evil world. And God's like, yeah, it's what this age is supposed to be. I can't believe that. I can't believe what people are doing. That don't make no sense. Ooh, when I see it, it just vexes my spirit. I'm saying, you used to be that way. Had God not made you alive, you'd be doing the same thing. And sometimes, since he made you alive, you hating them because they doing what you want to do. I was driving on the way to church, and I saw them people walking. I said, Lord, that's all they do on a Sunday. And you like, man, they sure look like they having a good time. They walking, smiling, they looking all pretty, jogging, drinking, talking on the phone, smiling, ain't having a care in the world. I'm bringing my tithe in. Lord have mercy.
Thank you for worshiping with us today. If you're in need of prayer or someone to talk to, our online ministers are available for you right now in the chat. And we invite you to join us again for our extraordinary worship services every Sunday at 10:30 a.m., Sunday at 4 p.m., and Wednesdays at 7:30 p.m. Central, where Dr. Moody teaches how to understand the Bible, and you can get your biblical questions answered. We look forward to connecting with you and ask that you subscribe to The Rock ATX on YouTube and follow us on Facebook and Instagram to stay connected to all The Rock is doing. Also, you can connect with us through our website at TheROCKATX.org. Again, thank you for worshiping with us, and be blessed.